When this cute little puppy got returned to the local shelter for the 11th time in a row, the staff was left in shock. It was hard to believe that such an adorable little dog could cause so much trouble that 11 owners refused to take her into their homes. But then one of the staff members did some investigation and found out the truth. Or did she? Puppy gets returned for 11th time to shelter, then staff realizes why. When Kate started her shift at the local animal shelter, she had no idea how crazy of a roller coaster this day would be. She had worked as a volunteer at the shelter for several years and saw some bizarre things, but all would pale in comparison to the story attached to this little pup. And when an angry woman walked into the building, about 5 minutes after Kate logged in, it all started. The woman had heavy-set footsteps and carried a little pup underneath her arm like a fulfilled handbag. It was clear to Kate that the lady wasn't very fond of the dog, but how bad it was, she had no idea. The woman reached the front desk and started raising her voice toward Kate. "I want to speak to the owner right away. You have to take this puppy back." Kate apologized to the upset lady, who had already placed the pup on the front desk's counter at that point. "I'm sorry, but the owner of the shelter is not here right now. I would be glad to help you in any way that I could," Kate said politely. "What seems to be wrong, madam?" When the already frustrated middle-aged woman heard Kate say those words, her anger levels increased tenfold. She hung her upper body over the counter and used her index finger to point at Kate degradingly. "You know perfectly fine what is wrong here. You people were the ones who paired me up with this horrible dog. That was only 4 days ago, and back then, staff members already said that the dog had been brought back multiple times. So don't act like you don't know why I'm here." The woman screamed. Kate recognized the dog and knew it had been sent back a couple of times. She was not the staff member who paired this woman up with the animal, though, so she did not have all the details. Her question was, therefore, valid and needed no such response from a customer, no matter how disappointed she was. Kate sighed, grabbed a return form, and filled in the dog's information: name, Sadie, age, around 4 months. After Kate filled out Sadie's basic information, she was almost ready to take the cute little puppy away from this scary-looking woman. There was only one more line that Kate needed to fill out. And it was a question that Kate already asked the owner before. "What can I write down for the reason of return?" The anxious shelter employee asked once again. But this time, an answer came, and it was a big one. The loudmouthed lady took a deep breath like she was amping up for something. She told Kate that the pup did not want to be with her. The pup kept escaping out of the house, no matter how closed shut she was. As an owner, she made it. "I know it seems like a small thing, but you have no idea what extreme lengths this dog will go to get away from me." And the woman was right. Kate had no idea. And the examples the woman then started to give Kate were, in fact, quite horrible. "Every day when I wake up, this pup is gone from my house. She always runs off at night, and my entire house is trashed when I wake up in the morning. Broken china, scratched up floorboards. This morning, I even found a hole in my door. It's just too much." Kate responded appropriately and sincerely. She was shocked by this revelation and asked the angry woman if Sadie had come back every day. The woman nodded and said that the pup came strolling back into her house every day around the same time. "I have no idea how she gets out every day, but each time when she returns, she is covered in transparent liquid goo and smells like rotten fish." When the last words on the form were written, Kate stared at the paper in confusion. She wondered what could have caused this behavior. But the former owner wasn't hanging around to find out the answer to that question. She didn't care and was just happy to be done with the destructive little pup. "She is your problem now," she said. And before Kate knew it, the woman had already left the building. It was hard for Kate to imagine that such a cute dog would cause this much trouble with her former owners. What could be wrong with it? Kate picked up the beautiful blonde puppy and carried her to the back, where a cozy dog bed awaited her. On her way over there, Kate ran into one of her colleagues. "Not again. This is already the 11th time Sadie has been brought back," the coworker stated. 11 times? Kate knew some owners weren't too happy with Sadie and had sent her back, but she had no clue that it had already occurred so often. There must be something seriously wrong with this dog if nobody wants her, Kate said with a sad look on her face. The young shelter worker was determined to find out what was wrong with Sadie. And that investigation started with Sadie's personal file. Every dog who entered the shelter had its own personal file. For most dogs, these paper dossiers were thin, which meant that the dogs did not stay all that long before getting adopted. But when Kate opened Sadie's file, she was met with a decent stack of papers. They were all the other returned forms from previous owners. A perfect place to start searching because all owners filled in the reason for returning Sadie. After placing Sadie in her warm dog bed, the determined shelter worker took the pup's files and placed them on her desk. Kate licked her thumb and ruffled through each document individually, and the more she read, the larger her eyes grew. This can't be happening, right? I have to call them. Kate didn't hesitate for a second and picked up the phone to call these former owners. The phone rang. Luckily for Kate, she could reach the first owner easily. It was a young father who adopted the dog for his daughter. Unlike the woman who just walked into the shelter, this man was friendly, so that was a nice change of pace. However, his answer on why he returned Sadie was the same. It was chaos at home. Sadie demolished everything and kept running away. And when she returned, the fish stack was horrible. And the news didn't get much better after Kate called the second owner. The details of what was demolished changed some. This time, Sadie wrecked furniture instead of doors and ceramics. But the general outcome was the same. Sadie seemed fine, but she would run to the house and escape at night. I locked all doors and windows, but still, she got out. And every time, she reeked like rotten fish. The more former owners Kate called, the stranger the situation got. Sadie was only 4 months old and had already gone through 11 owners. This was unprecedented. Why didn't she want to be with these people? And where did she run off to late at night? And why did she smell like fish every time? There were so many questions on which the confused Kate wanted answers. What are you up to, little one? The fish part was weird, but at the time, Kate brushed it aside. But pretty soon, it would be hard to ignore for young shelter volunteer because Kate made an interesting decision after she hung up on her last call. She decided to take Sadie home with her. She wanted to see what all the fuzz was about, even if it was only for one night. But nobody could have prepared Kate for what happened next. Kate took Sadie home out of curiosity and empathy toward the little pup. She felt sad that no one wanted her, so she had to prove that Sadie was lovable and homely. And the first evening at her place seemed to be true. Sadie acted perfectly. She was calm and well-mannered. She even rested on Kate's lap. I find it hard to believe that Sadie is this horrible, the ignorant Kate spoke. But that very night, Kate had to take back all those kind words about the pup. The often gullible Kate woke up around 2 a.m. when it happened. Hard thumbing noises come from downstairs. They were almost rhythmic, in a way, weird. After Kate was awakened fully, she sounds evolved. Now she heard scratching noises. What is going on down there? Kate ran down the stairs to take a look. And what she witnessed downstairs was something that was already predicted for her, but yet the kind-hearted Kate was reluctant to believe it. Kate's entire living room was trashed. Cutlery was lying on the ground, glass vases were broken, and one of the larger chairs had a hole in its fabric. But the most shocking part was that Sadie's doggy bench was opened up somehow. And Sadie herself was nowhere to be seen. How is this possible? Sadie! Sadie! The worried Kate looked all around the house, but her puppy was nowhere to be found. The young woman checked every nook and cranny of her home. Did she leave any door unlocked? Or was there a window still open, which she had forgotten about? No, everything was locked shut. There should have been no way out. Yet, Sadie was still gone. How was this possible? After her horrible discovery and Kate's desperate search, she sat in her most comfortable living room chair. She was too full of adrenaline and worried to go back to bed anyway. And if Sadie was to return, the living room would be the first place she'd visit. She wanted to see the pup work her way inside and find out how she did it. But unfortunately, tired eyes won, and Kate eventually fell asleep. When the young woman woke up the next morning, she saw something from the corner of her eyes. It was blonde, and it was wagging its tail. Sadie was back, and she was looking at Kate from the center of the living room. The pup was covered from head to toe in a disgusting-looking goo, and the smell of rotting fish filled up Kate's home. "Where have you been? And how did you get out?" The dog wouldn't tell her, and she knew that Sadie was sneaky enough to find her way out without normal humans noticing. That's why Kate needed a second set of eyes. Eyes that would always be vigilant. From reading Sadie's files, Kate knew that the pup only escaped the homes during the night. Nobody knew how she did it, but everyone said that daytime was fine. So Kate used this time wisely. Kate went to a local hardware store and purchased her second set of eyes there. She bought a hidden camera with a motion detector. According to the salesman, it was the best on the market. Surely, this thing would show her what this pup was doing. With some help from her neighbor, Kate managed to install the camera. So when the night fell, and all doors and windows were checked, it was time. Kate lay in bed and felt adrenaline rush through her body. This was irritating but exhilarating at the same time. It was like she was on a secret spy mission. The curious woman kept looking at the monitor on her nightstand, but up until that point, Sadie remained motionless inside her bench. Eventually, Kate decided to go to sleep, but after just 1 hour, the device next to her bed beeped. Sadie grabbed the monitor and looked at every detail. She instantly saw that the bench was empty again this time. Damn it, how does that dog keep escaping from there? After that notion, she focused on the main event. Kate saw little Sadie running through the house. The dog was barking and howling, and to Kate's ears, it had a sad undertone. While doing so, the pup threw over multiple items. What is she doing? Kate slowly crept down the stairs, hoping her presence wouldn't scare the little dog. And when Kate arrived downstairs, she was just in time. Sadie was about to start with her smart escape plan, and this time, Kate would have front row seats to the show. Parts of her wanted to get angry at the pup for all the destruction, but calmness and rationality needed to prevail for Kate to find out the truth. Kate held her body close to the wall, so Sadie wouldn't spot her. The small dog looked around, and when the coast appeared clear, Sadie opened one of the kitchen cabinets with her nose. It was the door below the sink. What is in there? Kate thought. But when Sadie remained inside for a long time, the worried woman decided to take a look. Kate opened the cabinet, and the pup was gone. How the hell does this dog do this? It was like the craziest form of magic Kate had ever seen. And the main performer was a 4-month-old puppy. The space inside the sink cabinet was normal, like all the others. It was closed off from all sides, with just the tiniest opening all the way in the back, where the wood panels just didn't touch properly. She will never fit through there, right? While Kate was staring at the blank space in the cabinet and the blank space in her mind, the world grew silent for a moment. There was no falling cutlery, no barking dog, and no beeping camera alarm. Just Kate with her frustrated thoughts. But quiet time did not last long because the young woman heard a bark coming from her backyard just moments later. So he did manage to do it. The space beneath Kate's kitchen sink led directly to the crawl space beneath her house. If Sadie had managed to squeeze through that tiny gap in the cabinet, which Kate was still impressed by, she would have landed there. From the crawl space, it was only a straight line bolt toward an opening in the side of the house, which eventually led to, you guessed it, the garden. So that's how you do it, but why? Kate wasn't waiting around the house, hoping answers would come. No, this woman was ready for action. She wanted to find out herself. So Kate ran to the hallway, grabbed her jacket and keys, and opened the back door toward the garden. Where are you going, little one? Kate ran into the yard, and it was just in the nick of time because when she entered, she saw little Sadie shoot under the main hedge. That hedge would lead Sadie to the street. Kate knew she had to hurry because, from there, she could lose the pup in a hurry. When Kate arrived at the street, she saw Sadie running in the distance. The dog was quick and seemed to know exactly where to go. It was like that pup had a purpose, Kate said later. And the worried woman had no idea at the time how right she was. Kate shifted into the next gear and ran as fast as possible to gain ground on the speedy little pup. Eventually, she managed to catch up with it, but Sadie didn't seem to mind that she was being followed. She just continued her route, guiding Kate deeper and deeper into town. Together, they traversed through dark cobblestone streets and dimly lit alleyways. They were places Kate normally stayed away from. The alleyways were damp and filthy, like a scene you might find in bad 80s horror movies. What on earth does a 4-month-old dog need from a place like this? Windows were creaking, and the wind was howling through the long, narrow corridor. Every bone in the young woman's body screamed at her to turn back. But somehow, Kate just kept walking, and then all of a sudden, she smelled something. It was a smell Kate recognized instantly because it was the same smell that dominated her house at this very moment. "I smell rotten fish." "Where are we, Sadie? Where have you led me?" Sadie's quick steps slowed down at that point, and the small dog slowly inched toward the back end of the alleyway. There was light at the end of the street, as if the alleyway expanded into something much larger. And that turned out to be true because when the alleyway was no longer a small street, it opened up into a giant square. It was still dark outside, but this open space was light-filled. And there was a good reason for that. Sadie and Kate had reached the city harbor, a place where there were always people loading and dumping cargo, mostly caught fish. And that's when the puzzle pieces started coming together. It was clear that Sadie's awful smell came from this place. The entire square was filled to the brim with different types of fish species. The smell was overwhelming, almost too much to bear for the young dog shelter worker. No wonder that pup smells so horrible every time she gets home. Did she visit this place every time? With all 11 owners? Why would that little pup do such a thing? Kate looked around and saw at least 24 men walking around the harbor square. They were heavy-set and wore thick overalls with the name of their fishing company stamped on them. Maybe these people knew more. She asked some of them about her little pup, who still walked around that same square calmly. But none of them ever saw the pup before. Kate did not have to wait long for a definitive answer, though. Is Sadie hungry? Is she going out at night looking for leftover fish to eat? It was hard to believe since Kate gave the pup a massive bowl of food. It was more than enough for such a small pet, and Sadie ate all of it in one go. After that, she got some treats, and she seemed satisfied. But as Kate observed the little pup, she noticed it wasn't interested in the fish. The 4-month-old pup walked between the large pallets filled with fish and other sea creatures and easily ignored them. No, it was clear that Sadie wasn't here for the fish at all. The little dog walked straight across the harbor without being distracted once. There was somewhere she needed to be. And that place was at the very corner of the square, where 2 wooden pallets were leaning against each other. Kate slowed down her step and observed the scene from a careful distance. She saw how the young dog nuzzled her way through the small open space between the wooden structure. She was wagging her tail like she found something that excited her quite a bit. And that was when Kate noticed it. A discovery that broke her heart because right between those wooden pallets, a high-pitched sound was heard. Sadie, who now finally acknowledged some of the fish around her, grabbed a leftover tailpiece and nudged the little fish remnant between the 2 pallets. At first, it just lay in the open space, but after a few seconds, a tiny blonde paw reached out and grabbed the broken piece of fish. And it didn't just remain one paw. Pretty soon, Kate spotted 4 adorable little pups fighting over that piece of fish. Kate now realized that Sadie wasn't running away for no reason. She still had a family on the street. Brothers and sisters whom she loved and who she took care of. It was heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. She now totally understood why she wanted to get away from the home she was placed in every time. And at night, it was probably safest to venture here since it was much quieter. Kate speculated how the little pups got separated. It was clear that Sadie was the more mature and brave one of the bunch, and the young shelter employee did not see a mother dog anywhere. So Sadie was probably forced to provide food for her brothers and sisters, who remained in hiding. And when she was out hunting for food, a local dog snatcher probably found her and brought her in. Kate felt her heartbeat go faster and faster as she approached the nest of pups. She didn't want to disturb something. Maybe they didn't even want her there, but she had to try and help. Kate stretched out her arm, and at first, Sadie growled at her female owner. But that hostility faded soon enough with Kate's soft demeanor and gentle approach. She patted all 5 dogs and promised to help them. After a short petting session, Kate took off and ran away. "I will be back, I just need to get my car," the now smiling shelter employee stated. The fact that she solved this case and, more importantly, that she could help these pups brought a big smile to the woman's face. She returned with her car and effortlessly grabbed all 5 pups. Kate brought them back to the shelter and checked their vitals. They seemed perfectly healthy. "You did a good job taking care of your brothers and sisters, Sadie," Kate said with genuine pride in her heart. The proud shelter worker stayed with them the entire night. And when the next morning rolled around and Kate's coworkers entered the shelter, they were gobsmacked when they entered the back part of the facility. "Kate? Is that you, girl? What is going on here?" They entered the storage room, where most of the cages and dog baskets were kept, and there they found Kate and her 5 new best friends. They were all curled up together in the biggest dog basket Kate could find. It was an adorable thing to witness, but it was also very confusing for Kate's colleagues. So that's when Kate stood up and explained everything to them. Sadie's entire story. Kate's fellow shelter volunteers couldn't believe what they were hearing. Their eyes grew larger with every new fact Kate threw their way. It was the saddest story they had ever heard, and the end result of that story was now resting on their shelter floor. Afterward, the group of volunteers crouched down, and each one of them grabbed a single pup. They hugged them intensely, and everyone promised to help. Together, they set out to find new homes for each and every one of the pups. But there was a catch to this promise. They realized that the pups needed to stick together. Or else Sadie would probably escape again to look for her siblings. No, they needed to find one new owner who wanted to adopt all 5 pups in one go. Luckily for Sadie and her family, that didn't take very long. A few days after Kate posted a picture of the dogs online, they got a call. The pictures and the explanation Kate provided beneath explained the pups' situation clearly and stated why they could not be separated. Kate thought that getting 5 pups adopted at once would be difficult. But the woman who was now entering the shelter had 0 problems with that. She was already covered in dog hair. The woman introduces herself as Barbara. She was an older lady, Kate estimated in her early 60s, and according to Barbara, she lived alone with her friendly Labrador Lucky. The woman loved dogs and instantly fell in love with Sadie and her siblings. She hugged and kissed all of them, and Sadie seemed to enjoy her company as well. The woman then promised to keep them together always. And after that moment and additional paperwork, Kate was forced to see her good friend leave the shelter. She would have loved to have kept little Sadie for herself. But that pup was a package deal. If you wanted her, you needed to adopt all 5 of them. But Barbara seemed friendly and nice, and as Kate saw the woman leave the shelter with all 5 pups, she knew she was doing the right thing. The young shelter volunteer missed her furry friends, though. So when she received an email from Barbara about 6 months later, she was ecstatic. She got the notification on her phone, but when she saw that a picture had been added, she rushed to the computer in the shelter to look at it on the big screen. With 2 mouse clicks, she enlarged the file, and there they were. Oh my, what have they grown? Kate asked her fellow volunteers to join her since they were also responsible for relocating the pups. Everyone let out a sigh, indicating how cute Sadie and her brothers and sisters looked. They had grown so fast, almost reaching Barbara's knees in the picture. It was clear which one was Sadie since she was the only one of the dogs who sported blue eyes. She looked content there. Kate could see that. Kate read out the email so her fellow staff members could listen in. It stated that Sadie and her family were doing amazingly at Barbara's farm. The old woman owned a small petting with plenty of space for Sadie and her siblings to run around and play. Sadie was now so much more used to human interaction, and so were her brothers and sisters. They are the sweetest dogs in the world. Thank you.